So we're going to switch gears here from our silent meditation to more context setting and an overview of what some of the things that we've been talking about earlier. So this morning I was saying that what's really important to me in this course is that alongside the 4 Foundations of Mindfulness, that we practice in a way where it's conducive and supportive anytime we go in and out of limbic injury. So I wanted to spend some time and talk about what's limbic injury? What does that look like? What does that mean? How does that work? And some of the ways that we can understand how this is connected to our brain chemistry and the kind of the choices that we have around it. So I have Can you give me a hand? Yes. Can you take down those and let's see this?
Want to keep these?
Yeah.
Go to the next panel.
No, we'll that
Do you
one.
need the whole thing? We'll just roll them up.
Yes, please. That'd be great. Thank you. Foundations of Mindfulness for growing others into kinds of joy. This one here. No, that one goes next. Over there. There you go. This one goes up here. This one goes right next to it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, in the normal trajectory of our living experience is like a bell curve, where hopefully for most of us, for most of our lives, we're in this range of experience, the major part of the bell curve, where the foundations of mindfulness is applicable in the ordinary way that we meditate, and the ordinary way that we hear the teachings, and the ordinary way that we apply them. Mindful awareness takes up the majority of the bell curve. But on this end of the bell curve is trauma or limbic injury. And on this end of the bell curve is a mystical understanding where we are like relaxed into a non-dual way of being and perceiving, and things are very different on both sides of this bell curve. This is a progression. There's increasing levels of joy and compassion from one end of this to the other. Yeah? And so in this, what we need to understand is that there's different kinds of brain functioning and different things that are getting activated. So in this little map where we've got the brain, we've got the frontal cortex, the limbic, and the reptilian brain. This part of the brain is the rational brain. This part of the brain is the emotional brain. Let me see what I've got here. Just put this aside. Thank you. So So the irrational brain is involved with language, abstract thought, empathy, and discernment. And that is the thing that is able to look and see what's going on, assess, and then make choices based on projected outcomes of an imagined positive future. The emotional brain is having to do, affects our long-term memory, our fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response, the actual emotions that we're navigating. And the reptilian brain is involved with all of the biological functions that we came in with when we were born. Our ability to breathe, to eat, to sleep, to digest, to urinate, to excrete. And so what happens is that when there is a certain amount of stress, and the stress can come in any kinds of ways. It can be toxic, it can be loss, it can be through illness, it can be through environmental disasters, it can be through emotional negligence. It can come through many different ways. Then what happens is that the limbic part of our brain goes into a stress response and it gets jammed there. So if we look at like the way this operates in the jungle, it's really fabulous that these things can. Who's making noises? You're making noises.
Just kind of rolling.
Okay.
Do you want me to tape?
I've got some tape right here. If we're living in a jungle and there are in fact tigers, then what happens is that a tiger sees us and we get scared and we run. And if we survive, then what happens is that the fear of that often shakes itself out of our system, and we come out of that okay enough. Yeah. The problem when we're living in a modern world is that the tigers never go. Okay. So the things that are stressing us in terms of some of the toxicities or some of the things that are happening in the news around us, or some of the, like when we're living in situations where there's chronic emotional neglect, or when we grew up in families where that was our circumstance, then there is no shaking it off. It's like the pedal gets jammed to the floor. And when it gets jammed to the floor, it's constantly pumping in the neurochemistry that signals stress, which has us hypervigilant and our bodies ready to respond to life-threatening danger. And over time, that's going to have a big impact on our capacity to sense, to be aware, to relax. It's going to impact our health, our fatigue levels. It's going to impact our ability and capacity to experience joy. So anyone who is navigating any kinds of trauma or limbic injury is going to have like a weight, like a big, huge weight on our capacity to navigate joy. And so when that's the case, then what we need is to relearn how to experience joy. So it's not a personal shortcoming. It's not a personal failing. It's what happens when the brain gets jammed into these responses and the system gets flooded with all of these different kinds of chemistry. Let me see what I've got here. So, the causes of limbic injury, sudden or prolonged stress, and the impact is hypervigilance, startle response. Somebody says something, or there's a bright light, or there's too fast of a movement, and it's like, and we've seen that, when we've been anxious or we've been activated, and there's some very small thing, and our system just flares, Or somebody cuts in front of us in front of the car. They're not doing it in a way that's damaging or risky, but our system just gets activated. Yeah. And it has all of these different impacts, which is on the health. It impacts our digestion, our sleep, our pain levels go up, our inflammation levels go crazy, our cognitive functions get diminished, our memory goes kaflooey. And in terms of mental health, our anxiety levels, our depression levels go up, and our joy levels go way down. So And in our contemporary world, there are more and more of us who are either navigating limbic injury in the present tense or coming out of something that has been that way in the past. And what I'm noticing, what's going on in the news, is that there's more and more people who are being dysregulated by the circumstances that we're living in. So that we have a larger population of people that are going in and out of this part of the bell curve. But the meditation is dealing with this part of the bell curve. And so the meditation then sometimes says, well, sit still, pay attention to your body, and stay with the difficult sensations. And all of that is perfect when you're here. And it's absolutely not what you need when you're here. It's the opposite. We don't need to sit still. We don't need to pay attention to the difficult sensations. And we don't need to close our eyes sometimes. We need to have our eyes open. So when we have a sense of this whole spectrum, that this is something that is available to all of us throughout our lives, and hopefully we have increasing resources to be more on this part of the bell curve, but then when we understand that this is a human continuum, that we go in and out of it, and when we do that as a community, then we have resources both internally and we bring resources to support each other when one of us or many of us or some of us are needing more support, or this support is not actually supportive. Yeah? So let me see what I've got here. Okay, so when we're dealing with this, we're in trauma or limbic injury, we're navigating it, it's up, it's active, or we're navigating a friend of ours who's dealing with it. First of all, what's important to understand is this is part of our brain chemistry. This is not a lack of motivation or capacity in your practice or some personal failing. It's the brain getting jammed into a stress response. And then you have the impact that happens after that. And so what we need to do when that is alive for us is minimize our contact with what is negative or painful or difficult, and maximize or accentuate what is positive, what is joyful, what is beautiful, what is calming. We need to pour in the self-love, like pour it in, And neuroplasticity is a science that is particularly skillful in helping us understand the choices that we have and how to focus our attention in ways that maximizes the good things and minimizes the not good things. So let me see where my neuroplasticity went. It's right there, magic. So I'm just going to put this over here. Second, we're not going to be able to see it because the light is going to come through. I'll take this off. All right. Thank you. So one of the principles of neuroplasticity is that our brain is fluid, and what fires together wires together, which means that the more we focus our attention in a particular way, the more we create the neurosynapses that makes it possible for those same patterns to continue. So the process is neutral. It doesn't in itself have a bias. It doesn't have a bias towards one thing or the other. And so it works by repetition and familiarity. And so if we have mind states of anxiety, and what happens with the mind states of anxiety is that our attention starts thinking about everything that's happening in our world that makes us feel anxious. And then the more we think about it, the more our anxiety increases. We're creating a positive reinforcing loop that makes it a lot easier to feel anxious and a lot less easy to feel calm, to feel joy, to feel peaceful, to feel content, and to feel grateful. So when we reverse that and notice an anxious thought, notice it, and then turn our attention towards either something that's neutral, counting the windows, counting the pink things, counting the squares on the carpet, counting the green things, counting the number of flowers there are in this place. Or something that's positive. How many things can I see that actually uplift my heart? When we touch something that is difficult and turn our attention to something that is positive, and then sustain our attention on that, then it increases the capacity to stay focused on that positive. It diminishes the neurosynapses that allow the negativity to have a deep rut, and it gives us more choice. So what's interesting is that when we combine a choice of focusing our attention on something positive with a positive emotion, then that allows those neurosynapses to wire 10 times faster. But when we take something positive and we focus on it, we use it with play, then it happens 40 times faster. So the neuroplasticity is all about having fun and making it joyful, because it completely serves its own purpose, which is then to change the brain patterns in a way where we are optimizing what is healthy and positive, and we are minimizing what is difficult and what is negative. So it is a little astounding to me that, I did a laughter yoga training because I've been dealing with limbic injury. I came out of the fires in Santa Rosa and I had a limbic injury. And it's been a journey. It's not been a small thing. And one of the things in the neuroplasticity community is that we laugh. And we learn to laugh for no reason. And laughter is fabulous. It's a complete wash of your system. And it allows your whole system to link up with connection, with joy, and your system feels flooded with well-being, and it lasts for a while. So here we are, all meditators, and how many people have deliberately had the teachers incite laughter as part of the meditation? Yeah, lots of hands are up. So we come from a culture where laughter takes us into what is ostensibly distraction and therefore not something that is valued, right? But laughter, when it's used in the right way, helps us build about a resource towards accessing what is positive, that then we can make positive choices when we need to. Okay, so
What's the incremental,
go ahead, yes.
incremental, what's that word, training?
Yes. Mirror neurons can be used effectively. So what that means is that I can be in a foul mood, have anxiety levels through the roof. And if I look at you and you're happy, that has a huge impact on me. So one of the reasons why I'd like to develop a culture where we learn to look out for each other and to be supportive is because it's maximizing the motor neuron, where when we are in relationship with others who are coming from a different space, we can use that in a way that is a positive advantage for ourselves. Incremental training. So, when I came out of the fires, I was highly triggered by smoke or burn or chemical sensitivities. So I didn't go back into areas and camp there for a week. I went there for 3 minutes and then I'd leave, and I did my neuroplasticity things and felt myself initially get activated and then calm it all down, so that I increase my tolerance in the things that were activating me. So part of our learning is both to understand what's triggering us and to move into touching those triggers in a way where we can slowly expand our capacity to be with triggers without being dysregulated by them. Any other questions? So incremental training is a systematic approach, and that's one of the things that comes forward in neuroplasticity. But one of the things that happens in non-duality, when we touch into and drop that sense of not being a solid separate lump, where there is not a sense of the world of black and white, of good and bad, but there's just the mind that opens to awareness, and awareness is pervasive, and it's not bound in time and space. That creates an opportunity where we are the most neuroplastic. And so from that place of neuroplasticity, we have tremendous amount of choice and flexibility about where we focus our attention. So I move in and out of laughter yoga and qigong and non-dual practices and satipatthana practices as a way of giving us leverage to this whole experience of what it is to be human in the bandwidth that we are navigating, which is gone. The bell-shaped curve. Yeah? Here it is. So it's nobody's fault that we have stuff going on here. It's not fault. It's not about shame and blame. It's about there was more stress in the system than there was capacity to process and navigate it. And so then we have to just, get with the program. That's where we're at. And then be careful about how we apply meditation so that we can nudge it over here. And so the shortcomings of most meditation teachers and techniques is that they assume that everybody's here. And it's not an accurate assumption. Questions, comments? Okay.
Can you say anything more about the non-duality of, just say that part again?
So non-dual, so the mindful awareness practices, it starts out with understanding that we start out establishing a container of sila, of integrity. We make a commitment of ethical behavior. We make a commitment already to be here. There's a commitment of sustaining your attention, of showing up, of generosity. All of those things are present in just getting here, okay? Those conditions are conditions that set it up so that we can bring about positive results. The non-duality is moving past the world of good and bad. So awareness doesn't actually have a preference, okay? And when we're resting in that, it is a kind of like an ultimate salve or balm, because it's not in war with the positive feelings against the negative feelings. It's just relaxing in what is big and spacious and able to know all of it without having an opinion about any of it. It's like the difference between our minds being fixated on the things in this room and relaxing in the space. It doesn't make the things in the room automatically disappear or rearrange, but it can radically shift our relationship with them. And again, a lot of the classical teachings come forward in the dualistic world of there is good and there is bad, and we practice to cultivate the good and we practice to reduce the bad. And for a lot of our lives, it's really helpful to do that. But when we get to the place, or when we understand this awareness that is not about me doing or going or getting or being or getting rid of anything, there's another deep unraveling of relaxation and rest and joy. And it's in that where we touch pervasive joy. The joy that is innate, and the joy that is boundless, and the joy that is not dependent on conditions. And so if we are to cultivate here together as a community, my hope is that we have increasing skill in all of these parts of this, so that we have more resources and understanding and skill when either we or each other are experiencing this. We have the tools that give us the resources for navigating the middle part of this bell curve where we are bringing mindful awareness to what's happening, and we understand, not just conceptually, but we have tastes that then expand into touches, that expand into deeper felt sense of what it's like when we stop trying and just rest in a deep and pervasive peace. Yes, please.
So I'm not sure if this is the right time for this question, but in my experience with the experience of non-dualism is that it's also a continuum, and like so that I feel most separate and solid and kind of not good when I'm in that trauma space. And then most mystical, like after a week on retreat or something like that. But it's not there's not like divisions so much.
It isn't divided. It is a flow, you know. But it's not very often that people talk about the whole spectrum. And so, for me, that's part of my experience, and so I bring it forward in the way that I teach, and my intention is to encourage people to become more literate of the whole flow so that we can be skillful at choice no matter where we're at. And also that you've got confidence when you've got a teacher that's telling you, sit still and close your eyes and be with the pain, and you say, that's absolutely not what I need right now. You have confidence that that is correct, that you can trust yourself. Even if they are the most biggest, magnificent teacher ever, you still can trust yourself. So that would be my hope, is that you come out of this confident about what you need, when you need it, independent of what the world is telling you around you. So when I say these things, what happens for you?
Yay! Let's do that.
I'm excited,
Yeah. Good. Where did my notebook go? Is it under here?
Oh.
Yeah, it's under here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do,